Put on your swim trunks and your goggles, because we diving deep into these mythics. Not right now, like after the intro. Go, get them on. Hey y'all, Jay down here. Today we're doing a deep dive into the mythics just to understand what they're about, which one does what, which one you should go with, which one you like, right? Because let's not forget, in this game, you should play with heroes that you actually like. Instead of just taking somebody's word for it, saying, oh, where are they on the tier list? Just go in and look at them and see which one will help you out and like understand the way that they work. So to find those mythics, they're going to be in the temple. We all know they cost 100 mythic shards each. Their exclusives only cost 50 shards, but mythic shards are kind of hard to come by. You're going to have to get in there and fist fight some whales or steal somebody's wallet or something. So let's just go down the list. We'll look at their kits, kind of talk about where they're good, what they do, and whether I think it should be a priority based on what kind of team you might have. So let's just start at the top with Brainhealed. I like her name. I like the coolness of her look here with her wolf. Let's just take a look at what she does. Her A1 basic attack, defense damage, one enemy, 70% chance to get silence, reduces their turn meter. Goes up to 100% chance. Okay, it's not bad, but it's only to one enemy, so you can silence them and reduce their turn meter. I guess it would depend on if the boss you're fighting is immune to any of that kind of stuff or not. But you can basically lock somebody down with that attack. That's pretty good. Alright, 280% def damage to all enemies. Remove all the buffs on them. Okay, that's pretty hot. The defense damage scales up pretty decently, but we're really not going after the damage in that. It's removing all the buffs. But it comes into a 5-turn cooldown. So 5 turns is a little bit long. So you kind of want to speed tune it where she would rip all the buffs off, and then your nukers could come in and destroy all the unprotected units. So that's pretty good. And if you exclusive her, 80% chance to inflict hypnotize when it deals damage. Okay, so it gets in the buffs off, and then pretty much almost guarantees that they're not going to do a darn thing. So that's pretty cool. And then her passive, you got 2 forms, heavy cannon, heavy sword. When heavy cannon, she reduces the damage she takes. Effect resistance, alright. Brainhealed switches to the heavy sword form. Skull's cooldown cannot be reduced or increased effects. So her first 2 abilities are more powerful than a normal A1 and A2 because her ultimate is skill swapping. Alright. Exclusive, she'll get some defense once she does it and reset the cooldown of all other allies' active skills. Casting Protean. Okay. So then she's a skill switcher, which you always have to look at both sets of skills. Wolf Blade Slash, 2 stages of damage to a single enemy, ignores immortal, damage immunity and shield. That's pretty good, but still, again, 1 enemy and goes up to 200% defense damage. Not horrible for an A1. But ignoring all those things is pretty good. And then if you exclusive her, okay, she gets an extra action if it inflicts a kill with that exclusive. She can increase her turn meter by 20% when she casts it, or when the target is below HP, it'll be 40%. Okay, so this can kind of ramp up. I can already see some fun times if you compare this with like Catherine and you get it counterattacked because you always use the A1 on a counterattack. This could be pretty cool, but again, it's situational and dependent on if you have Catherine. Other than that, it's good, but not like amazing. Of course, these damage immunity ignores are kind of rare. Selects an ally and summons a wolf spirit to possess them for 2 turns. Damage taken by the possessed ally. Okay, so her wolf possesses one of her allies, reduces all the damage taken by them, and counterattacks anybody who attacks them. Okay, that's not bad. She basically gives some more counterattack to another ally. That's pretty sweet. I'm not sure if you... So I can already think in my head some sweet combinations you can pull with this. So imagine you've got somebody who's got a crazy A1 like Hazanja, where it doesn't just hit one person, it applies a bleed to 3 people. And you've got him paired with Catherine. So he counterattacks, applies to 3 people again. Then if you've got her, and then she possesses him, right? he then also have more counterattack. So it probably would only work in a situation where you got it going on manual, because who knows who this would target. And you'd have to do this during the time when Catherine's counterattack was down. So it looks pretty cool on paper, but in practicality, or getting it to really well in an auto setup, I'm not sure. Alright, so in heavy sword form, she just gets more damage and crit. That's pretty sweet. Then she switches back. So overall, some really good A1s and A2s between the two forms, but none of it is reaching out to me that says, hey, this will change your game. This is like, oh yeah, like it's a really, really strong character. I mean, she's a mythic. Those are mythic strength level spells or abilities, but what they do isn't like, I need that. Like, it'd be really cool, but it doesn't say I need that. So all right, let's move on to what everybody knows. Lucifer, one of the two most talked about. All right, pretty cool looking. We all know he does big damage. So this does up to 260% single enemy. And if it crits, it launches another attack. So if you build him properly, basically in perma-crit, always hit two things. And after killing a target, he attacks the target with the lowest HP. So he can kind of chain if you do it right. If you kill the first target, and then maybe if you attack the second target, it's got low HP, and then you killed it, maybe it'll chain again. Have to see it in action, but that's a pretty awesome A1, to be honest. Pretty awesome, especially like you're pairing this with another counter-attacking hero. That's pretty bomb. And if you exclusive it, you don't get the 70% penalty on the second attack, and it's more crit damage. That's very strong. All right, so a big old chunky hit to somebody enfeebles them, and then grants stealth. What about enfeeble? Basically, they take more damage. They're weakened. If you exclusive it, it's going to be severe wound as well. Enfeebleness 2. I can already tell by this first level exclusive that his value goes up probably by at least 25% just by having that, because that makes his A2 way more useful, right? You severe wound him, which you need for certain bosses like high level Gwyneth, and then enfeeble 2, they take more damage. Yeah, the value on that exclusive one is pretty sick. Start of each wave, Lucifer grants stealth for 1 round. When he's under stealth status, increases crit rate by. Alright, so the start of each wave, he gets himself stealth. And if he's under stealth, he gets higher crit rate, crit damage. And it extends by a turn if he kills somebody while he's in stealth. And if not, he receives stealth effect for 1 turn. Alright, that's pretty straightforward. He's gonna hide and do more powerful attacks. Here's the big boy. This thing is hitting for 1020% damage to a single enemy. And if they have a buff or debuff, he's doing more damage, 20% more damage to be exact. Basically, everybody's gonna have a buff or a debuff at some point. Like, that's crazy. Exclusive reduces all their defense by 60% for 2 turns if he inflicts a kill with it. Then casts Karma once more on a random target. That is solid right there, but in all, it's going to take you 250 mythic shards to get to it. That's pretty sick. Alright, so, yeah, he's going to deal a metric butt ton of damage. Alright, Ulcaster. 3 stages of 100% attack damage to a single enemy. Self HP is below 50, grants 40% leech. If not, increases turn meter by 10%. Okay, that's pretty hot. A conditionalized A1 that can have up to 40% leech. Like it. 50% chance goes up to a 75% chance on a 3-turn cooldown to horrify all enemies and do some damage. That's pretty good. He gets a layer of this. Must be a translation error because it says soul here, but this is soul of glory. And stack this thing that increases his damage by 20% and his effect hit. Alright, we like that a lot. Increases self-attack for 2 turns and deals 200% damage to all enemies. Alright, so he is a big AoE attacker and debuffer. His damage multipliers aren't insane, but every one of them is dropping some mega debuffs, controls. That's very strong. And increase that exclusive, he's increasing his whole team's attack by 40%. Yeah, that could be very, very strong support. That's a very strong support with some damage. Alright, Lukia, she's one of the neater things. It's right into a bleed comp. So she's going to deal 3 stages of 65% attack damage to a single enemy. Give it a chance. Alright, so build her high crit rate, and she's pretty much always going to be stacking bleeds. 2 turns, that's nice. And then a single hitter. Okay, that's pretty hot because this first part, this first stage inflicts 2 layers of bleed. That's a guarantee. Unless there's a resist mechanic, this does not need hit effect for that. That's a very strong. When you don't need to have the effect hit to land some dots, that's pretty good. Here's one of those more convoluted book type skills. Alright, so she's going to gain 2 pieces of soul fragment each time she inflicts a kill, and 1 piece of soul fragment each time she casts an active skill. So she could, if she uses the skill and kills somebody, get 3 fragments. Okay. And every piece increases the leech speed and bleed damage by 3%. That's hot. So merge the fragments into a soul core when she's got 5, which speed and bleed by 15%. Okay, 3 times 5 is 15. That makes sense. But Luki will not gain any soul fragments since then. Instead, she acts for 1 turn immediately and resets the cooldown of all her active skills. So she crescendos up to increase all her speed, her bleed, and her leech, and then resets all her cooldowns and goes again. Well, what's that ultimate gonna do? 6 stages of a single enemy. Okay. I feel like little Miss Lukia and Nidrold are gonna be bestest of friends. Put a Reeves and a Holder in there. That's Bleed City. Dude, that's crazy. Alright, so if you're into bleed comps, that's really, really powerful. But still not the level I think that would be like a first or even second choice, maybe third if you got a lot of build comp going. If you got like a max knit roll, if you just really love bleeds, that looks like a lot of fun in that kit. Nida! Right, she's going to deal attack damage to a single enemy. She's going to inflict a layer of poison for 2 turns and restore herself HP. Okay, solid A1. Then she's going to deal low damage to all enemies, but inflict deep poison for 2 turns. Oh, we like deep poison. Deep poison is really nice. Afterward, deals additional damage, increasing poison. Damage is treated as poison damage. Oh, so I can see mastery going to be a building on her. Very nice. Grants Nida immunity all dot and converts all poison on her to heal. Okay. Only seems like it would work if you're facing a poison comp, which could be good for certain floors in the campaign, but largely not going to be most of the time are you facing a poison comp. Nida has a 30% chance to pursue anybody who gets their poison cleansed. That is cool, though, right there. She's like, no, you're going to keep poison, you bastards. Up to 3 attempts to poison attack targets in each of her turns. Wow, that's cool. I bet it would be fun to watch. And exclusive 2 just gives her a chance to put poison on all the enemies. 2 turns at the start of her turn. That is huge. That is huge. And I could see some nasty, nasty teams with these 2. Oh man, that. Woo. 3 stages of attack damage to all enemies with a 60% chance to inflict a layer of poison for 2 turns. Brings it up to a 90% chance on a 4-turn cooldown. Additionally, triggers poison 1 time after you. Okay. So this is a lot like Hazanja's thing, but with poisons. So she's going to trigger them so they tick once instantly. That's very, very strong. Again, really, really cool and powerful kit, but then also based around poison, so a little bit niche. You got to be going down the poison road with maxed out Woolsies and whatnot, maybe a Walter. All right, here's a guy that I'm really, really considering. I like this guy a lot. Ben Austin, Sword Harbor Guards, one of my favorite factions. 100% attack damage to a single enemy, chance to reduce their defense by a bunch for 2 turns, and then the ally with the highest attack pursues and attacks the same target 1 time. Okay, here is my idea, and this is why I think I might be going with him next. Put him with Catherine. Same faction. They get counterattack, right? Counterattack always uses the A1. So say I've got somebody awesome like Yoko or Luz, right? Big, heavy hitter with their A1s. Counterattacks. Uses this, lowers their defense. And then he brings in your highest attack single hitter in to smack him again. So let's say you get hit with an AoE, like a Horus or a holder, right? Everybody's counterattacking, right? They're all getting their own hits, but his counterattack is A1 is bringing in somebody else on top of that hit. You're just like adding a boatload of these extra attacks that don't count as turns, right? Because his A1 is his basic attack, and if it comes as a counterattack but then still does this, basically you've got all the counterattacks and then the extra attacks he's bringing from somebody else every time that triggers. So if Catherine casts counterattack on everybody, you're facing a wave of Horuses and Hizanjas, and they're all AoEing you. They're all just murdering themselves off your face. Like, I love counterattack type stuff. I love cool combinations, and I think I'm taking this guy because that I need to keep moving. We're only on his A1. Damn. All right, 2 stages to all enemies. Chance to increase the cooldowns of their targets, both active skills. Okay, that's really good. That's really good. It only goes up to a 15% chance, but to reset their cooldowns to keep them from using big stuff, that's huge. And then he also can steal their turn meter with exclusive, so he does help controlling them. So that's solid. It's not amazing, but that's really solid. 20% chance to cleanse all control effects from any ally who falls under control effects. So it goes up to a 28% chance just passively. Okay, that's really good. And then if you have exclusive, anybody who gets cleansed gets 50% effect rest for 2 turns. So it looks like any time that a control effect is placed on him, it seems like it's at the time of the placement, there's a 28% chance to just go, nah. So that's pretty awesome. Removes all buffs from an enemy target, then inflicts resistance buff on them for 1 turn. Removes all buffs from an enemy target, inflicts resist buffs on them for 1 turn. Cleanses all control effects from all allies and makes them pursue and attack this enemy target 1 time. So then his ultimate removes all the buffs on somebody, makes them resist any future buffs for a turn, cleanses all control effects from all his allies, and makes his whole team beat their face in. And then if exclusive level 3 resets its cooldown if it fails to kill the enemy target. Dude, I'm already seeing just insane counterattack, free turn craziness. I like it a lot. Alright, gotta move on. That's super awesome though. Super, super awesome. Alright, moving on to Nordac. Nordac I hear is pretty big in China, but let's take a look at this kit and find out why. 300% def damage to a single enemy, 10% more damage for every 1 type of buffs, has up to 40%. Okay, that's pretty good. It's going to be a pretty strong A1 based on defense, and for the number of buffs he has, goes up higher. Pretty strong multiplier for an A1. All attribute debuffs from all allies grant them a shield respectively, 30% of his max HP for 2 turns. Okay, so he cleanses all attribute debuffs from his allies. Attribute specifically. Attribute debuffs, so not dots. Grants them a shield. 30% of his HP for 2 turns. That's huge because it's a 2-turn shield. Goes up to a 45% HP. Comes down to a 4-turn cooldown. Exclusively can. That's a pretty strong skill right there, right? Shields are huge in this game. Do not sleep on shielding. All right, passive. At the beginning of a turn, he's a chance to gain. All right, so the question here is, does he have a 60% chance to gain all of it, or a 60% chance to get 1 of it? Because if he can get 1 of those things, right, based on the slash, I would think it would be or, right? 30% or 20% speed or 25% crit rate. If he gets all of it, that's pretty awesome. And then having a up to 20% chance to give 1 of them to an ally, that's pretty good just passively. I mean, that's pretty passive. It goes up to 100% for him. So we need to go into the gallery and see if we can preview him and see if he gets all of them or just 1 of them, because that will change his value. If he gets all of them, he goes up into the top 5, 6, or taking for progress, whatever. If it's only 1 of them, he stays pretty low for me. So we'll do that when we get to the list. Alright, grants damage immunity to all allies for 1 turn. Shares all self buffs with all allies. Now that is huge, right? Now, the reason I'm thinking this was probably going to be only one of them and not all of them at the same time, because if he got all of them and then used his Holy Shelter and just gave that to his whole team, he'd be the obvious first choice. And damage immunity is huge, because if you time it right, when you get to the high levels in the Dwarven Ruins, there's some stuff that will just one-shot you. Just if you didn't have an immunity or a beefy enough shield up, consolidation, or both, you're dead. Alright, so he's solid. We need to go explore, check out that ability. Alright, Luna. Everybody knows Luna. There's a reason why she's the first choice, because she will make completing some things or 3-starring your campaign 1000% easier. She's the best reviver in the game. Whole turn stealth, right? So she has a lot of way to protect you and buff you. Alright, her A1 is really good. It can hypnotize somebody. But if it's below 50%, restores all allies, right? So if they're higher than 50%, there's a good chance she's going to hypnotize them. They're not taking an action. But lower than that, going to heal everybody by 4% of her HP. Can go up to 6%. That's pretty sweet. Especially in an A1 and in a counterattack team, all those heals help. And then increase all allies' turn by 15%. Grants this debuff to them for 1 turn. And then grants all allies except for the main target stealth for 1 turn. Now there's some questions about her main target. She picks some weird targets sometimes. Oh. And any enemy has to attack the untargeted enemy. Unless they're AoEing. So you'd like her to leave Wim out of stealth, but then she'll just leave Hazanja out of stealth. And you're like, what the heck's going on? So, but raising all their turn meters by 15% and resistance to debuffs, that's pretty big. And at the beginning of a turn, an ally will gain a layer of heal for 2 turns. And if it doesn't work, you get a 60% chance to reduce incoming attack for 1 turn when she takes direct damage. So it goes up to 100% chance, right, to reduce the incoming attack damage. The layer of heal is guaranteed unless they didn't need any healing or somehow have like heal block on them or something. But it's pretty good. If you exclude it, it gets to really good, right? Because 10% of the max HP for the caster, well, the caster is her. So it's just a great way of staying alive. Not any one of her skills goes, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's her whole kit as a package that makes her amazing. Quietness, she cleanses all the dot debuffs and all other debuffs, right? So she just wipes your team clean of a lot of stuff. Gets them a heal, increases their attack, right? If they've got more than 50% HP, their attack goes up by 40%. It's the big boy version of attack. And then if they had lower than 50% HP, it revives them by percent of her HP. So you want to build her high HP. And then the main target on this will always be a dead character, but I've had it go back and forth between which dead character. You might have one that's more priority than the other one, but unless you manual it, kind of random which one she picks, she's going to bring them back to life, 40% of their health, and then 40% of the turn meter. So she is the best reviver in the game. Her whole package usually means you're going to live through or stick it out through a lot of the fights. So you lose somebody, she brings them back, and when you kill the boss, they're all alive. You get the 3-star on that fight. Really solid. All right, we're almost to the list. Stay with me, y'all. Madalena, right? Cool looking. One of the lesser known mythics. Not a whole lot of people talk about her. So she's going to get 300% attack to a single enemy, more for every layer of primordial seed that the target has, and inflicts a layer of primordial seed, which is very specific to her. The buff owner will be crumbled by Madalena, taking massive damage for her when a certain number of layers are stacked. I'd like to see what number that is, but that's a pretty good A1, laying out her little proprietary debuff there. 2 stages, 75% attack to all enemies, 35% chance to reduce their defense by 60% for 2 turns. Okay, that's a big defense down. We like it. 35% chance only until you exclusive one it. So this skill kind of sucks unless you exclusive one her. Layer primordial seed on an enemy. Any enemy targets whenever they restore HP by a total of 20% of the HP. So if they big heal themselves, they're going to get primordial seed. consumes 10 layers of it and crumbles targets when they have 15 layers of it, slashing them if their HP is below 50%. If she fails to slash them, deals 600% attack damage to them. That's a big hit. So you stack up those layers, and the exclusive 2, it's good, right? But it's predicated on an enemy killing one of your teammates, which is not good. And at the time that you're probably pulling her, you don't want that to be happening much. Or if you do, have a Luna in reserve to pop them back up. So a little bit convoluted of a skill, but it could be a big ol' hit. And for anybody's confused on slash, it's like a crush. It's like a monster hit. Like it'll execute them. So, yeah. And then her ultimate Spirit Parade, 120% attack damage to all enemies and inflicts a layer of Primordial Seed. Increases the target's damage from this skill by 4%. So she is a self-contained unit who puts this proprietary debuff on the mob, and when it stacks up, she does a big bunch of damage. She doesn't really synergize with anybody else. She's just kind of her own dealio. So if you want a weirder DPS than Lucifer, you can go with Madalena. But I guess if you need Eternal Sect, Force Mark. Interesting kit. It seems like it's got good multipliers and strong, but it's nothing I'm picking until way later in the game. Like I'll probably get some exclusives on some people before I ever pick her. Melchio. Melchio is the most complicated hero in this entire list, right? So hold on to your butts. He's got multiple forms. His A1, 3 stages of 130% to a single enemy. Reduces their turn meter by 15% when landing a crit. And if at the point you're building your mythics, you better be having enough crit rate. Go up to 170% attack damage. Each of the hits, that's a good multiplier on an A1. And reducing turn meter is sweet. 320 to a single enemy and 2 others. Okay, so he's hitting 3 peeps. Crits guaranteed for targets with debuffs. We like that a lot. Great multiplier. We like guaranteed crits. 180% attack damage to all enemies and a 40% chance to reduce their tenacity. Up to a 70% or 80% chance, up to an 80% chance, which bringing their tenacity down, which means they're more susceptible to crit damage. And then elemental evolution. This is where it gets weird. So he's immune to those control effects, right? Those specific control effects. He gets a layer of this elemental charge when he casts his basic skill. Basic skill being A1. The next skill Melchio casts will upgrade to the corresponding intermediate skill when he has 2 layers of basic elemental charge. So that's a little bit, it needs to be a little more specific because there's active skills and basic skills. Your A1 is your basic skill, your A2 and your A4 are your active skills. Now, so the next skill he casts, we upgrade to the corresponding intermediate skill when he's got 2 layers of basic elemental charge. So if he A1s twice, gets basic elemental charge, then casts a skill, that one's going to upgrade it to an intermediate version of itself. So in this case, his A4 is not an active skill, it's a passive. He is designed differently than you're used to seeing by about any other hero. Right? So I feel like with Melchio, you're definitely going to have to use the smart casting system to control what order he does his things in. Alright, so he gets 2 layers of this charge from his A1, upgrades the next skill he casts. Alright, so he'll lose those basic elemental charges and gain a layer of this next level up intermediate elemental charge when he casts an intermediate skill. So he's going to step up his skills from basic to intermediate, and then the same level of evolution will apply going up from intermediate. Alright, so it's basically like it's going to stair step its way up. It's going to work from basic to intermediate to advanced, and we'll look at what they do. But it's a ramping up system. Think like an Affliction Warlock in WoW, or something that puts a lot of dots, but it has to ramp up, and then all of a sudden it starts crescendoing into some craziness. And then the cooldown of his skills will not be reduced or increased by other effects. So he's immune to anybody who will reset his cooldowns, but he also cannot have them sped up. So there's that. Basic elemental charge is what we talked about, just as it enhances the skills. Now let's skill switch. Let's see what they do, right? We already talked about the multipliers at his basic level, and they're strong, right? It's guaranteed crit action there, some tenacity down. Well, then he's going to ramp up into 2. 4 stages of 160% to a single enemy. 4 stage can inflict stun. Got piercing rate. Very, very solid. That's a scary A1. Very scary. 3 stages of 100% attack damage to all enemies. Crit's guaranteed. Attack has 30% extra crit damage. Like that. And then remove shield from all enemies. But if you haven't already been smacking them enough, he's going to come along and then reduce all their shields. And reduces their tenacity down by 60%. That's hot. And then the next tier up, we got 4 stages of 100% attack damage. That's big multipliers. 60% piercing rate. And here's where his exclusives start to come in. Just makes all of it way nastier. Oh my gosh. If he exclusive level 3 him, he starts ignoring shielding and damage immunity and immortal. Oh boy. Deals all buffs from all enemies. So basically with Melchio, he's going to ramp himself up. And if you let this guy keep getting going to that max level, he's going to absolutely freaking destroy you. But he has to ramp up to that. So if you're ever going into a fight and you see a Melchio, nuke his ass. Just kill him. Neutralize him. Control him. Because that is crazy right there. If he gets ramped up. Definitely a way more complicated hero, but one that will be interesting. I'll probably get him farther on down the line. We've gone through all the mythics, right? That's all of the mythics. So we're capping back about how useful they are. We think we should get them or not. Basically, Luna is going to stay where she's at because she makes so many things so much easier, right? She's the best healer, hands down by far, but what she does, she's going to give the most universal value in all areas of the game, right? So I would still go with her. Lucifer is also a great pick in the early because of his crazy damage numbers. But if you're not progressing because you don't have enough damage, you're progressing because you don't have enough survivability or you can't get rid of shields or some other mechanic, then you might not look at Lucifer. Lucifer is super strong, but he's about damage, right? And if he kills somebody, he'll get another one. He doesn't really do anything else for your team, so you have to be cognizant. You have to be hyper aware of what you need in your account when you pick that hero. Nida and Luki, they were more for fun and in niche comps. They have to be involved in those comps to really succeed, in my opinion. Allcaster, he was good as far as a like super control, like support type, but dealing damage. He can kind of fit in universally everywhere, but he's not doing anything that I'm like, oh yeah, if I just had an Allcaster here. Brainhealed is really neat in some of her abilities, but her switching around to the different types, I like the abilities. It's just I'm not sure how well you could fit them in to a regular and reliable thing. I love the fact that she could ignore some of those things, but as far as getting the timing right of when it comes around in a rotation to take things out, it's going to take some practice. Ben Austin goes up into my top 3 just because, especially if you have Catherine, you can make some crazy extra turn auto attacking things, team attacks, right? Remember in my Catherine video I said you can play the game of A1s? Well, in this right here, man, makes them pursue and attack these enemy target one time. You can really play the game of A1s. That's just pretty sure I'm going with him next. Pretty sure. Makes me want to go get some mythic shards now. Nordac, we need to go test this guy. We go test this guy to see if that worked. Madalena, can already tell you without a doubt she will be one of the last ones I ever get. Yeah, probably her and Allcaster are probably going to be toward the bottom of my list just because of what they would bring to the table, what I'd already have at the time. Then Melchio. If I pull Melchio, or if I summon Melchio with my mythic shards earlier than later, it will probably be out of a sheer sense of curiosity because I want to see what you can make happen with that guy, especially in one of those counterattack teams to get in those extra turns to ramp him up faster. So I'm not really pulling for him because like, oh, I need what he brings. I just want to see what the hell all that can do. It'll be a sense of curiosity. But for me, I have my Luna, and my next choice, I'm almost 100% certain it's going to be Ben Austin, because I've got strong Sword Harbor Guard faction, and I love the team attack mechanic. Absolutely love it. Now, I still want Lucifer for that crazy damage, and I think I will probably go for him after Ben Austin, because I get a Catherine, a Ben Austin, and a Lucifer. Right, Lucifer getting made to counterattack extra times and pursue the target is going to be absolutely bonkers. So, yeah, I'm looking for that. Let's go take a look at Nordac. We can't forget. Thank you for sticking around for this part of the video. This is a long video, just to deep dive in there. We're really, to really get in there, you got to spend some time. You can't just fly the seat of your pants willy-nilly. There we go. Somebody tell me which unit's good. Which one should I build? Like, you got to spend time doing this to really know. All right, so let's take them for a test drive. Which, by the way, for those of you stuck around, if you didn't know that you could freaking do this, go into the gallery. You can preview the skills. Right? So, passive. Beginning of each turn, Nordac has a 60% chance to gain one of those buffs. Well, he's got a buff right now. It looks like it's going to be crit rate up. Yep, he's got crit rate up. So it's only one of those buffs, not all the buffs. Now he's got a second one and he keeps it. Okay, so the first one fell off and then he's got a new one. So he's going to keep cycling back through those buffs. So that's actually probably halfway between the two options that I said earlier. Like if it's just one at a time, it sucks. If it's all of them, it's broke. But since it's cycling through and they overlap a bit, that's actually pretty good. So all right, so he's pretty solid option, but I'm still not going to pick him in my top, at least my top 4, I'm not. At least my top 4, I'm not going to. Maybe in the top 5 or 6, depending on my needs. He definitely is amazing looking, right? That he just looks freaking awesome. But we have our answer on that kit. So yeah, if we're looking at Mythics, as a whole, do I think Luna is still the top choice to go with? Yes. Lucifer, solid second choice. Maybe first, depending on what you want. Yeah, because he friggin' nukes. But for me, I like Mr. Ben Austin. All right, y'all. I've been J-Town. Thank you for sticking around with me for the long haul. It's been a long one, but we dove deep. Glad y'all had your goggles on. Now it's time to come up for some air. All right, y'all. I will see you in game.